Hey everyone, and welcome back. Ready to dive deep into a classic? We're tackling How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. This book has been around forever, like almost a century, and it's still so popular. There's got to be a reason, right? It's all about, well, I mean, the title kind of says it all, right? But it's really about building those relationships and communicating in a way that works. And you know what's really cool? It's not just some vague self-help stuff. It's divided into 4 parts, and each one has these principles you can actually use, like starting right now in your job, with your family, anywhere. And what I really like is how Carnegie uses real stories and psychology to back up his ideas, so it's not just like fluffy advice. For example, he talks about how criticizing someone can actually make things worse. He compares it to kicking over a beehive. Have you ever done that? Not fun, right? It's the same kind of thing when you attack someone's character. It just makes him defensive. And remember how we were always told to remember people's names? Turns out there's more to it than just good manners, like way more. Carnegie says it's about making people feel seen, like really seen.
Yeah.
Acknowledging them as individuals. And that's how you build a connection. But here's the part that really blew my mind, okay? He actually says that appealing to someone's better nature, like their nobler motives, is more persuasive than just focusing on what's in it for them, which, I mean, sounds kind of crazy, right? But there's a whole psychology behind it that we'll get into. So yeah, ready to unlock these secrets. Let's jump into part 1.
Fundamental techniques in handling people. Right away, Carnegie hits us with this powerful principle. If you want to gather honey, don't kick over the beehive. It's such a great visual, right? It basically means, like, don't criticize, don't condemn, don't complain. But I know what you're thinking, because I was thinking it too. Sometimes people do need a reality check, right? And Carnegie gets that. There are times when you need to give feedback. But the point is, criticism, especially when it's harsh, usually backfires. It just makes people defensive, resentful, and they're less likely to change. He tells this story about a manager, right? Always on his employees' cases about being late. Thought he was motivating them, but all he did was create this, like, toxic environment. And it wasn't until he changed his approach, focusing on the positive and being clear about what he expected, that things actually got better. And honestly, think about it. When someone criticizes you, even if they mean well, don't you immediately want to defend yourself? It's totally human nature. So what's the alternative? Well, Carnegie says, instead of criticizing, try to understand what people want, like what motivates them, what makes them tick. If you can figure that out, you can actually influence them in a positive way. It's like trying to get someone to go for a run with you. If you start lecturing them about their health and weight, they'll probably just shut down. But if you could appeal to what they want, maybe they want to de-stress or have more energy or just enjoy the fresh air, then they're way more likely to go with you. And that leads us to another big idea from part 1, the big secret of dealing with people. Ready for it. It's so simple but powerful. Make the other person feel important and do it sincerely. Now, we're not talking about fake flattery or anything like that. This is about genuine appreciation, for who they are and what they do. Because let's be real. Everyone wants to feel appreciated, like they matter. Carnegie has this story about a salesman who just couldn't close deals. He knew his product, but he wasn't connecting with his customers. And then it hit him. Instead of just focusing on selling, he started asking his customers questions about them, about their lives, their businesses. He really listened to their needs. And guess what? His sales went through the roof. Why? Because he shifted his focus from selling to serving. He made his customers feel like they mattered, built that trust, and bam, more sales. Think about how you feel when someone genuinely acknowledges your work or says thank you. It feels good, right? Makes you want to do even better. So how can we use this? Start by really noticing the people around you at work, your friends, family. What do you actually admire about them? And how can you show them that you appreciate them? Maybe it's a simple thank you, a note, or even just like truly listening when they're talking to you. It doesn't have to be big, but it makes a difference. But hey, we're just scratching the surface. In part 2, we're going to dive into Carnegie's 6 ways to make people like you. It's like a toolbox for building those strong connections, the kind that make life better. And I got to say, some of these ideas, they really surprise me. They kind of go against what we usually think about when we're trying to be likable. So yeah, get ready, because we're going to explore this whole idea of putting others first, the power of a smile, and the magic of using someone's name. Okay, so we're back, and we're really getting into the meat of how to win friends and influence people with part 2, 6 ways to make people like you. I gotta be honest, when I first saw that title, I was a little skeptical, like this just could be some cheesy stuff. But the more I read, I realized it's not about tricks or being fake, It's really about building real connections with people. Carnegie's big idea here is that being likable
isn't about being the center of attention. It's more about focusing on other people, you know?
Making them feel heard and appreciated, like they matter. And honestly, that's how you get people to like you. Think about it. The people you really enjoy hanging out with, the ones you connect with, aren't they usually the ones who make you feel good? The ones who actually listen, who show they care about what you're saying. So let's break down a few of these 6 ways. The first one is do this and you'll be welcome anywhere. Ready for this? It's become genuinely interested in other people. Pretty simple, right? But how often do we really do that? It's so easy to just be stuck in our own heads with our own worries. But Carnegie's saying the fastest way to connect with someone is to actually step outside of yourself and genuinely be curious about them. Imagine you're at one of those networking events and you meet someone new, right? Instead of jumping right into your spiel about what you do, what if you just ask them about their work, their passions, what they're interested in? And I mean, really listen, not just waiting for your turn to talk, you know?
You might discover you have stuff in common, learn something new, who knows, maybe even start a cool friendship or business partnership, right? And even if it doesn't lead to all that, at least you made someone's day just by making them feel seen. Okay, the next principle. This one might seem kind of obvious, but trust me, it's powerful. A simple way to make a good first impression, just smile. I know, it sounds basic, but think about it. A genuine smile, it's like this universal language of kindness and openness. It disarms people, you know?
Yeah.
Makes them feel more comfortable around you. Carnegie even talks about the science behind smiling, how it releases those feel-good chemicals in your brain, and how it actually can make you more likable. Seriously, think about it. When someone smiles at you, doesn't it just make you feel a little bit better?
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're having a bad day, it's kind of contagious, right? Breaks down those barriers. So next time you're talking to someone, whether it's a coworker or the person checking you out at the store, or even just someone you pass on the street, try giving them a real smile. You might be surprised at how they react. Okay, now this next one, this is one I personally struggle with, but I know it's important. If you don't do this, you are headed for trouble. Remember people's names. Ugh, I am so bad with names. I meet someone, 2 seconds later, poof, gone. But Carnegie's really hammering this point, that remembering and using someone's name is one of the most powerful ways to make them feel important and respected. He actually calls it the sweetest and most important sound in any language. No exaggeration. Think about when someone remembers your name, especially if it's been a while or if it's someone you look up to. It just makes you feel good, like you matter, you know? So I've been trying to get better at this, and I found a couple of tricks that help. One is, when you first meet someone, repeat their name right back to them. Like, it's nice to meet you, Sarah. Another thing, sounds weird, but try picturing their name written on their forehead while you're talking to them. I know it's strange, but it kind of works. And honestly, it's worth the effort, because when you use someone's name, it shows you're actually paying attention, that you see them as an individual, and that's a big deal. Now, those were just 3 of the 6 ways. There's also be a good listener. Talk in terms of the other person's interest, and remember this one, make the other person feel important and do it sincerely. Carnegie brings that one up again because it's that important. But the main takeaway from this whole section is that winning friends and influencing people, it all starts with just genuine human connection, right? It's about putting others first, caring about their lives, and making them feel like they matter. And these aren't just nice things to do. They're actually essential for building strong relationships, in every part of our lives. But wait, there's more. In part 3, we're going to tackle how to get people to see things your way, the art of persuasion. And guess what? It's not about arguing or forcing your opinions on people. It's way more subtle and interesting than that. So stick around, because we're about to uncover the secret of Socrates and learn how to get people to say yes without a fight. All right, so we're back, and things are about to get interesting, because we're diving into part 3 of how to win friends and influence people. This is all about persuasion, how to actually get people to see things your way. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Persuasion sounds kind of manipulative, right? But that's not what Carnegie's about at all. It's not about tricks or being sneaky. It's really about understanding where someone's coming from and finding that common ground.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he actually comes right out and says, you can't win an argument. Think about it. Even if you win an argument, you outsmart the other person, you probably end up hurting the relationship, right? It's you win the battle but lose the war. Have you ever had one of those arguments where you technically won, but it didn't feel good at all? There was all this tension left over. That's what he's talking about. When we're so focused on being right, we can actually push people away. So what's the secret? Carnegie gives us this principle. It's called a sure way of making enemies and how to avoid it. And get this, It's all about respecting the other person's opinion, even if you think it's totally bonkers. Like, even if you're thinking, are you kidding me right now? You got to start by acknowledging that their view is valid to them. He even says you should avoid those two little words, you're wrong. It's like instant defensiveness shuts down the whole conversation, you know? So instead of trying to force our ideas on people, Carnegie says we should try to start by agreeing with them. He calls it the secret of Socrates. Basically, you find something, anything, that you can agree on, even if it's small, and you build from there. Like, let's say you want to convince a friend to try this new restaurant you love. Instead of going on and on about how amazing it is, maybe you start by saying something like, hey, I know you love Italian food, and this place has incredible pasta. Maybe we could check it out sometime. See, you find that little bit of common ground, their love for Italian food, and now you're working together instead of against each other. It makes them way more open to your idea. And when it comes to dealing with complaints, Carnegie's got another gem for us. He calls it the safety valve in handling complaints. Ready for this? Let the other person do most of the talking. I know. It can be hard, especially when we feel strongly about something, but he says one of the best things we can do is just listen to someone's complaints. Don't interrupt, don't judge, just listen. Why? Because it lets them get it all out, vent their frustration. When people feel like they've been heard, they're way more likely to actually listen to you. It's like that pressure cooker analogy, right? If you keep all the steam bottled up inside, it's going to explode eventually. But if you let some of that pressure out slowly, you avoid a disaster. So as we wrap up this deep dive into how to win friends and influence people, I want to leave you with this. Which of these principles really stuck with you? And how can you use them today in your own life? Maybe it's remembering names, showing genuine appreciation, or becoming a better listener. Or maybe you're ready to master the art of persuasion, starting with agreement and letting others be heard. Whatever it is, try it out, see what happens. And of course, I got to say, if you really want to go deep, check out the whole book. There's so much wisdom in there. It's a classic for a reason. Anyway, thanks for joining me on this journey. It's been fun. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep connecting with those around you. Until next time.